Sir Jonathan Van-Tam, England's former Deputy Chief Medical Officer, told the COVID inquiry yesterday that his family was threatened with having their throats cut during the pandemic. Today, Jenny Harries, former Deputy Chief Medical Officer, and now also Equalities Minister Kemi Badenoch, are also giving evidence. Joining me now to discuss all of this is co-founder of the Together Declaration, Alan Miller. Good afternoon to you, Alan.
Good afternoon,
Thanks
Julia.
for joining us. Now, we did have a clip, but actually we haven't got very much time, so I'd rather get more time with you. But we had Jonathan Van-Tam being asked about the threats against him. We had Chris Whitty as well. It's absolutely appalling. Can we take it as a given? Anyone threatening people, this is a criminal act, should be prosecuted and dealt with in the most firm terms. But what I can't understand is why an inquiry that's in a module about the decision-making process for the COVID policies that we all had to endure, and we're living with the outcome now, you know, massive inflation and all the problems we've got, the economy and debt. Why on earth they're spending time talking about threats, why they're wasting time talking about feelings, why they're wasting time talking about gossip and tittle about who criticised who in Dominic Cummings' diaries or comments. Do you have any hope at all that the COVID inquiry is going to ask any of the right questions at any point?
Unfortunately, Julia, the COVID inquiry has not started out with the correct terms of reference. They're not asking the right questions. The first one, the paramount one, is why was there ever a lockdown? Should lockdowns ever occur? What is the merit of it? And then the next one is, how do you assess and evaluate the cost benefit? Is it being presented to the public in an honest way? Instead, we've had spin and yarn and nudge and lies and spies and censoring. And so what we've got is a situation where we've got an enormously expensive, costly, time-consuming inquiry that ends up going to look like what it's going to say is that what we should have done is lock down sooner, earlier, harder and longer. A travesty when you think there's over 7 million people waiting for the NHS.
Exactly. I don't even know, Alan, how they could have come to that conclusion. And we know they are going to come to that conclusion because they're not looking at any facts and figures. Now, I'm willing to allow that there are a load of documents, people are giving in their evidence, you know, an actual, you know, documentation, and then they're asked for a few hours about what they've had to say. But the fact that the questions from, I've called him my villain of the week this week, Hugo Keith, the lead counsel, the lead KC, the questions he's asking on behalf of the inquiry of Whitty, Valence, Van-Tam, Carl Hennigan, you know, Professor Neil Ferguson and all the others. The questions are, I mean, they're puerile, they're irrelevant, they're leading. I mean, they often completely mischaracterising, like Sunetra Gupta, one of the co-authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, completely and utterly mischaracterising her views on how you would go about protecting the vulnerable, the people who are actually at risk, elderly, those who are unwell, and asking people things like, do you think that Eat Out to Help Out, would that have raised infection levels? And then each of these guests going, well, yeah, I think it would have. I can't see how it wouldn't have. And at no point going, well, let's look at the data. Oh, look, the government's official data on the number of infections during the period and after the period of Eat Out to Help Out, showing no increase in infections, no increase in hospital admissions. And when infections did go up, they went up across most of Western Europe around the same time in September, October. They didn't have Eat Out to Help Out, so how could that have caused that? I mean, what on earth is this man doing? And why is it being allowed by Baroness Hallett, who's supposed to be in charge of this inquiry?
Well, it's almost as if you wanted to have a strapline or a PR campaign to actually underwrite and legitimise the lockdowns, and you had leading questions, and you didn't have the correct interrogation, you didn't have a proper evaluation and assessment. And this is the problem, Julia, that what we've got is a situation where what should be being assessed is, why was Parliament shut down? Why did we not specify and look after the most at risk, as the Barrington Declaration said? Why do we only listen to certain type of opinion, certain type of scientific modelling, and how can we make sure this doesn't happen in this way again, so that we can be prepared and then we can assess and evaluate properly? This is enormously damaging, not just the ongoing damages and harms, but also for the public's relationship to science and what it means, and also, of course, complete cynicism and despair with the political establishment.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen that in the Netherlands, haven't we? Yesterday, I know you campaigned the Together Declaration about things like, you know, anti-net zero policies as well. Basically, talk about policies trying to take away our individual freedoms. That's kind of the theme of the Together Declaration, and people standing up. We've seen, you know, in Hartley-Brewer, supposedly, you know, far right. You know, he's become the biggest party in the Netherlands because he's campaigned on behalf of the farmers dealing with net zero policies.
He has, and it's been quite a long time coming, but 37 points now looks like in this situation. And if you look at the farmers and how much popularity they had and the fact they struck a chord, and also there's so many people that, you know, what you might call the silent majority that often feel that they're patronised, ignored, talked down to. We saw that often with Brexit. We've only seen in the last 48 hours people told that they were the stupid ones again.
Oh, here we go.
And I think that it's the questions of net zero, of how we're organising our economy and what we need to do are enormously important. That's why we've got this report out about clean air with Ben Pyle.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I'm going to be really naughty and say we talked about that before, and I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Yeah. So I want to give Candice the final word.
Thanks,
Alan, thank you very much. Alan Miller from the Together Declaration. Candice, just on COVID, net zero?
I totally agree with him. I think that after COVID, I think people have lost faith in political authority. They've lost faith in the establishment. And sadly, yes, a lot have lost faith in science because the scientific method was never really allowed.
Yeah, no such thing as the science. Candice, it was a pleasure to have had your company all today. Thank you for that.